Today, we're going to decode the hidden operating system of your job. Because the way you work, the way we all work, well, it wasn't an accident. It was actually designed more than a century ago by two guys, Frederick Taylor and Henri Fayol. And believe it or not, their ideas created the rulebook that we still basically follow today.
Have you ever just sat at your desk and thought, why is my job set up like this? Why is there even a manager? Why do we break big projects down into these teeny tiny little tasks? Well, those aren't just weird quirks of corporate life. They are features, not bugs.
That's right. The modern workplace, with its bosses, its departments, its deadlines, it was all deliberately engineered. And the two main architects behind this whole system were Frederick Winslow Taylor and Henri Fayol. Their ideas are still shaping pretty much every job in the world.
So let's start with our first titan, F.W. Taylor. You should picture him as this obsessive engineer who'd look at a factory floor and not just see people, he saw a system that could be optimized, a machine that could be tuned for just maximum, perfect efficiency.
His whole philosophy was called scientific management, and for the time this was a huge deal. He basically argued that we need to stop relying on old habits or gut feelings or just plain guesswork. Instead, every single job, right down to the smallest hand movement, should be scientifically studied to find the single, one best way to do it.
So how did he do it? Well, he laid out this really clear four-step method. First, you replace the old rule of thumb with actual science. Study everything. Second, you create harmony. You get management and workers on the same team, aiming for the same goal. Third, you scientifically pick the right person for the right job. And then you train them in that one best way. And finally, you have a clear division of responsibility. Managers do the thinking and the planning, and workers do the actual executing.
But, Taylor's most radical idea was what he called a mental revolution. He wanted managers and workers to completely stop seeing each other as enemies fighting over the company's profits. He said they should see themselves as partners, working together to make the pie so big that everybody's slice gets bigger. A total mind shift. Okay, now let's shift gears to our second titan, Henri Fayol. If Taylor was the scientist with the microscope on the factory floor, Fayol was the architect in the boardroom with a blueprint. He wasn't looking at tiny little tasks. He was designing the entire organization, from the very top all the way down.
See, Fayol's huge insight was that management itself is a skill, a real discipline that you could actually study, teach, and then apply anywhere, whether you're running a little corner shop or a giant corporation. He basically turned management into a profession.
And he laid out these core principles for this new profession, a lot of which are going to sound super familiar. For example, unity of command. That means one employee, one boss. No confusion. Unity of direction means one team, one plan, one leader. He also stressed that the company's goals have to come before anyone's personal agenda, and really importantly, that managers need to be fair and kind to their people.
To build this whole structure, he came up with something called the scalar chain, which is really just a fancy name for the org chart we all know today, that clear line of authority from the CEO down to the intern. But Fayol wasn't rigid. He knew that following that chain for everything could be super slow. So he created a clever little shortcut he called the gangplank, which lets people at the same level talk to each other directly to get things done faster.
Fayol also really got the human element. He had this principle called esprit de corps, which is just French for team spirit. His point was simple. It's a huge part of a manager's job to build harmony and a sense of unity. Because, well, a team that's together is strong and gets stuff done.
Okay, so we've got these two hugely influential thinkers. Both of them wanted to make work better, but they came at the problem from completely opposite ends. Let's really put their visions side by side.
This table nails it, really. Taylor started on the ground floor, looking up. His perspective was bottom up. He was totally focused on task efficiency. Fayol, on the other hand, was in the C-suite, looking down, a top-down perspective. His focus was on the overall administration of the whole company. That's why we think of Taylor as the scientific specialist and Fayol as the experienced practitioner. And it's why their big ideas are known as scientific management versus the general theory of administration.
All right, so these guys were writing all this stuff 100 years ago. Why should we care today? Well, because their ideas aren't just in history books, they're absolutely everywhere. Let's look at where their fingerprints are all over your world right now.
You see Taylor's legacy every single time you see a fast food crew working like a well-oiled machine. You see it in the incredible logistics of an Amazon warehouse, or in the scripts a call center agent reads from, or, really, in any piece of software that's designed to optimize a process. He gave us the science of working fast.
And Fayol, his legacy is the very skeleton of modern business. That organizational chart on your company's website, that's Fayol's scalar chain. The MBA your boss might have, it's literally teaching Fayol's principles. The simple fact that you have a manager whose job is to plan and lead, yeah, that was his idea.
So here's the bottom line. These two weren't rivals. They were actually complementary. You could say Taylor designed the engine, focusing on making each part run with maximum efficiency. And Fayol designed the chassis, the overall structure that holds the whole thing together. And between the two of them, they basically built the car we're all still driving to work today.
But that leaves us with a huge question, doesn't it? The rulebook was designed for factories and strict top-down companies. Now that we live in a world of remote teams, flatter organizations, and AI coworkers, are their rules still the right ones? Or is it maybe time for a whole new set of architects to come along and design the workplace of tomorrow?